Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name's Ben Wilting, and I'm with the Amarillo Public Library. This is part 6 of our 13-part series designed to teach you everything that you need to know to obtain citizenship in the United States. Today we will be covering questions 47 through 54 for the Civics portion of your citizenship test. Today all of our questions deal with the U.S. Constitution. Stay tuned. The document that sets up the United States government is called the Constitution. Today it will be the topic of discussion. Okay, so let's get started. Today we're talking about the Constitution. We're going to be covering questions 47 through 54. Again, we're using the list provided by the Amarillo Public Library. You can get that list from the link in the description below. It's the same questions as the list on the USCIS website, just in a little bit of a different order. Okay. Number 47. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. The Constitution. The Constitution sets the framework for how the United States runs, how the government works. There's no higher laws in the United States than the Constitution. If a law goes against the Constitution, it's deemed unconstitutional and thrown out. So, the supreme law of the land is the Constitution. The parts of the Constitution we see below are the Preamble, which is the introduction. It talks about what the purpose of the Constitution is, sort of sets up what it is, sets up what the Constitution does. The Articles, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And then the amendments to the Constitution, which we will talk about a little bit later. What does the Constitution do? Number 48. The Constitution sets up government. It defines the government. It protects the basic rights of the Americans. Okay. So anything along those lines, protecting basic rights, setting up the government, defining the government. Let's talk about what that means. Okay. What that means is in the Constitution it has a list of rules and a list of laws and rights that every person, every citizen in the United States has access to. So that's what the Constitution does. It gives us a list of rules and rights for the citizens, and it also has rules for how the government operates. Number 49. What is an amendment? An amendment is a change to the Constitution or an addition to the Constitution. So anytime that we feel that something needs to be added to the Constitution, there's a right or a rule that we feel is very important, we will add it to the Constitution. Additions to the Constitution are not common. They are pretty rare. The Bill of Rights contains the first 10 amendments, and after that, in the entire history of the United States, we've only made 17 more amendments. So we don't make amendments often. But yeah, an amendment is a change or an addition to the Constitution. Question number 50. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. So let's look at what is included in this Bill of Rights. The first is the First Amendment, the freedom of speech and political freedom. This gives people the right to assemble. It gives them the right to speak out if they have an issue with the government. They have the freedom to write in the paper. The freedom of religion is the freedom to worship however you feel, or not at all. So there's a lot of things that are included in that First Amendment. It's a very important amendment. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's the right to own a firearm. The Third Amendment has to do with quartering troops. It protects citizens against having to serve as a hotel, so to speak, for soldiers. United States citizens can't be removed from their homes to house soldiers. Why this is included is because in the Revolutionary War, where the United States fought for independence against England, British soldiers would occupy United States, colonists at that time. They would occupy their homes, and so that's why that was included in there. Search and seizure. The government doesn't have the right to search your belongings and take them without cause. Rights of an accused persons. This has to deal with the way we handle criminal allegations. The Fifth Amendment, you'll often hear that it's used when people have to testify. So if a person is accused of something, they don't have to say or do anything that would potentially incriminate themselves. So if I've been accused of theft, and the judge asked me questions, or the prosecution, the lawyer is asking me questions about whether I did something or stole something, I have the right to remain silent. I don't have to say anything to them that may incriminate myself. So I can remain silent. That's what the Fifth Amendment does. Right to a speedy and public trial. This protects citizens from being arrested and having the trial process drawn out. So in places where they don't have the right to a speedy trial, you might arrest someone knowing they're innocent, and then you just draw their trial out for a prolonged period of time. So they wind up being in jail 5 years before they get a trial for something they're clearly innocent for. And the public trial just means that this trial can be transparent, so that you can't have secret trials that happen behind closed doors that nobody knows about. Again, to protect the rights of the accused. Trial by jury in civil cases. This means that you have the right to choose a jury rather than a judge to determine guilt. If, for example, the judge didn't like me, if I knew the judge in my personal life, they might have motivation to find me guilty. So I have the right to say I want a jury of my peers. I don't want one person to make this verdict who might hold a grudge against me. I want a panel of people to determine my guilt. So that's what that amendment gives people the right to do. Limits on fines and punishments. Again, this has to do with if I'm caught jaywalking, the government doesn't have the right to lock me in prison 10 years for jaywalking. Crimes and the punishments have to be in measure. They have to. They can't be disproportionate. The punishment for the crime can't be disproportionate to the severity of the crime. Again, to protect citizens from, a judge or someone in power from punishing them for personal reasons. The 9th and 10th Amendment, rights of the people and powers of states and people, are a little more abstract. Rights of the people, the 9th Amendment, essentially talks about how the rights given to us through the Constitution and the constitutional amendments are not our only rights. Our rights as citizens, as individuals who live in the United States, extend far past what is in the Constitution. So essentially we have more rights than what is explicitly written out. Powers of the states and the people, that discusses how there are certain things that are not explicitly written down in the Constitution, in the amendments, dealing with how government can govern the people and the rights of state governments, and anything that's not explicitly written down would default to the states. But yeah, those are two rights in the Bill of Rights that are a little more abstract, a little harder to pin down and define. So let's move on. Number 51. What is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? So as we talked about in the previous question, the First Amendment is freedom of religion and political freedom. So your rights in that amendment are freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, that's the right to gather and protest peacefully, freedom of press, your right to create a newspaper, to speak your opinion, and your freedom to petition the government, which essentially means it's okay to disagree with the government. It's okay to disagree with political figures. And it's okay to voice those opinions, to speak out and share your opinion, even if it conflicts with the government. In a lot of places, that's not okay. A lot of places, if you speak out against the government, you can put yourself in a lot of trouble, put yourself in harm's way. So that's one of the freedoms that we really appreciate in the United States. Again, it's good to pick one of these and stick with it. If you go to church, perhaps freedom of religion is the one you might pick. If you're actively following politics, freedom to petition the government or freedom to assemble might be ones that stick out more. Okay, First Amendment. Number 52. How many amendments does the Constitution have? 27. We currently have 27 amendments to our Constitution. That is the 10 original in the Bill of Rights and then 17 additions thereafter. 27 amendments. Number 53. What is freedom of religion? Freedom of religion is the freedom to practice any religion that you want, or to not practice religion at all. Historically, in the United States, freedom of religion was a big thing. One of the reasons that the original colonies were set up was because of religious freedom. There was a religious sect in England who were persecuted, and they wanted to leave and find a place where they could worship without consequence. They didn't want to be persecuted for their religion. So once the forefathers were trying to pin down exactly what religions they wanted to allow, or if they wanted the country to be a religious country, they decided on freedom of religion. Anyone can practice any religion that they feel, and if they feel like not practicing a religion, they don't have to. Number 54. The idea of self-government is in the first 3 words of the Constitution. What are these words? We the people. We the people. It's not we the rich people. It's not we the people in government. It's we the people. The idea of self-government is something that extends to all. We the people. And this next slide just has the entire preamble for the Constitution. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Let's go over this quickly. You're going to see these words again in the Oath of Allegiance. So we'll start at the beginning. In order to form a more perfect union. So the purpose of this Constitution was to find a better form of government, a more perfect way to work together. Establish justice. Justice is fairness. Fairness for people as it relates to their government, as it relates to people in power. So they wanted this new form of government to be fair for everyone. Ensure domestic tranquility. Tranquility means peace. Domestic means community. So they wanted a peaceful community, a community where we could talk to each other, where we weren't fighting with each other all the time, revolting and having riots. They wanted it to make sure that within the country's borders there wasn't infighting. It was peaceful. Provide a common defense. That would be the military. They wanted to make sure that it was a safe place to live when considering other countries. Promote the general welfare. That would be our quality of life. Do we have food to eat? Do we have clothes to wear? Do we have water? So one of the purposes of the Constitution and the creation of the United States is to ensure that we have a good quality of life in the United States. And to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The blessings of liberties being freedoms, the rights that are established in the Bill of Rights to ourselves when they wrote that in 1787, and to our posterity, which is the people who come after us, our children, our children's children. So you can see in this brief preamble that there were some very firm goals, some very concrete ideas that our forefathers wanted to ensure that we were working towards for the future. So that's the general ideas that drive the Constitution and in effect drive the country. Thank you for joining us for Part 6. Join us next time for Part 7, where we cover questions 55 through 63. See you next time.